thanks so much for meeting with us today. I really appreciate it. We just kind of wanted to jump straight to the point here. Okay. You know, it seemed like when you were the figurehead of the peace movement, the mainstream media was fully behind you, and then it seemed like they turned against you, and the anti-war movement turned against you too. They used you as a symbol, and then they used you as kind of a scapegoat. Do you want to elaborate on that? What did you think about when that happened?
Well, first of all, when I went to Crawford in 2005, it was a media circus. I remember, like, on the third or fourth day, there's this really cool AP photographer named Matt, and he was down there constantly. And every day I'd say, Matt, is it a media circus yet? And he's like, not quite. and then about Thursday, it was a media circus. He agreed that it was a media circus. And I think that, you know, I used to think that the media was biased towards the right when Bush was president. And so a lot of that media, and all the media, when they started to realize that I was, like, serious, I wasn't just a fluke, and I wasn't going to go away, they like put the brakes on it, you know, and started to marginalize me, you know, painting me as just a grieving mother or slightly off kilter because of my grief. And so that started to happen that summer, you know, and then, but still the so-called progressive liberal media, I was still, like, featured so many times on, you know, like Randy Rhodes or Stephanie Miller or Ed Schultz or, you know, whomever that considered on the left, up until the Democrats came back into power in 2007. And then they didn't like it that I was saying the same things about the Democrats that I said about the Republicans. So that came to an end. And I realized then, when the Democrats came back into power, and, you know, I'm just naming names, you know, organizations like United for Peace and Justice and Move On, I realized then that they were not peace organizations. You know, United for Peace and Justice should really be united for electing Democrats. And Move On really is like, let's move on to, you know, full democratic tyranny of our government. And so, yeah, of course they didn't like somebody who realized that it was a systemic problem, not a problem of political parties or you know, it wasn't just a problem for one side, it's, you know, a problem for the world. And so it's been hard since Obama especially has been elected, because especially in the beginning, I felt like I was one of the only people in this entire country who was saying, no, you know, first of all, why did you support him when he said he was going to send more troops to Afghanistan? When he said he was going to increase hostilities to Pakistan and you know, all of his hostile rhetoric against Iran and places like that. And I said, what? And his votes during the Senate supporting war, paying for the war, supporting the, you know, reauthorization of the Patriot Act, for example, things like that. I was like, how can you, we have good candidates. Right. We have Cynthia McKinney. We have Ralph Nader. You know, they always have said and done the right things. So why are you supporting someone who's against what you supposedly believe in? You were against those same things when Bush was president. Why are you pro these things now that Obama's president? So it was really, really hard, you know, but I never once considered saying, oh, let's just give him a chance. Let's wait and see, you know, because the 3 days after, for example, after he was elected, he bombed Pakistan. Right. So it seems to be getting a little better. A lot of people are starting to come around. But I think that it's just like, well, you know, finally, 2 years into this administration, you're against against the wars again.
Again, yeah. And that's what I loved. I remember I saw you, I think it was like immediately after Obama got elected, I saw you in San Diego speaking at the Peace Rally.
It was a couple months after,
And you were just saying the same things. You just said, why are we surprised? I mean, he said that he was going to do these things.
Right.
We shouldn't be shocked that he's an aggressive imperialist. This is who he campaigned on as. So I loved that. And I loved how you didn't skip a beat, and that means that you're a true advocate for peace. And a lot of people align themselves with the Democrats and think that that's an alternative and that's for peace. It doesn't make any sense. They're both aggressive imperialists, just on two sides of the coin.
Well, there's some people who are so-called anti-war, so-called peace activists, who know the two-party system is a sham, who know that the Democrats are no different from the Republicans, but still, it's about political party over policy and over peace and over progressivism. And so there's some people who, had just had it after 8 years of the Bush administration, like all of us did. And they wanted a change, and they didn't hear what Obama was saying. They saw how he was saying it. They didn't hear what he was saying. So those people are one thing. But the people who are high up in the anti-war movement, high up in these organizations that literally used me to promote anti-Bush, the anti-Bush agenda, which I was anti-Bush, I still am anti-Bush.
Right.
To promote that agenda without following through on, what I felt was the most important thing, and that's ending the wars.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's no excuse for those people.
Right. There isn't. And just going along with what you're saying, it's astounding, the video that I sent you about just interviewing people in the Bay Area and how asleep they are. All these people, they love Obama, but they don't know why. They can't tell you one thing that he's doing.
Right.
And just encountering other peace activists, do you see more of a trend now, like you said, 2 years after his presidency, finally, do you see people waking up more and saying, oh my God, I was duped?
Yes, that definitely.
So you are encountering that a lot more.
Yes, and just like it happened when Bush was president, had so many Republicans email me and say that they felt the same way. That at first they hated me, but then they really started to research, or he did something that set them over the edge or whatever. And that started happening towards the end of the Bush administration, and it's starting to happen now too, because I think really the people who were opposed to Bush and opposed to his policies I would think they were more of the intelligent people in our country. So it's not going to take them 8 years to wake up like it took some Bush supporters. And I'm not saying Bush supporters are stupid, but I guess I am saying that. I guess if you supported Bush and still support him, what's the matter with you? Really? Come on.
I almost feel like I'd love to give people the benefit of the doubt and be like, it's going to take you a couple years to wake up. But I mean, if you got it, and if you woke up during the Bush administration, I don't see how you got duped at all. I mean, there was really no...
Absolutely, yeah.
I just don't see it.
I agree.
No change in civil liberties, no change in foreign policy.
Except for the worse. Except that since Obama's been president, many things have gotten worse.
Oh, exacerbated, yeah, exactly. So, why are people so terrified to look outside the two-party system?
That's a good question that maybe I can answer it because I used to be that way. And before Casey was killed, I just almost automatically, without thinking too hard, just went and voted for the Democrats. And I thought that I was liberal, I thought that I was on the left of the political spectrum. And then when Bush was elected in 2000, that's really when I started to think about things. It's like, wow, this guy just in his machine just like stole the elections right out from under. And I wasn't like a huge Gore advocate at all, I just that's my automatic vote. And then the Supreme Court enthroned George Bush as president, and I thought that was so wrong, but I didn't really know what to do about it. And then I just thought, oh well, he's only going to be president. Obviously, he's only going to be president for 4 years because he's such an idiot. And and before that election, it might have been the first time I really started to check deeply into the background of the candidates and check into his background in Texas. And I was appalled at his performance in Texas. My vote for Gore probably at that point was the first time I actually voted against somebody instead of for somebody. I wasn't for Reagan. I wasn't for, Bush 1 or any of the Republicans, but I wasn't like so much for the Democrat. But then when in 2004, I really bought into that lie that Ralph Nader was the reason that George Bush became president. Because, if Ralph Nader wasn't running, then Gore would have won Florida in 2000. Yeah. In 2004, I bought into that lie, though. I mean, I had a lot at stake. I was more awake because my son was killed in March and the elections were in November. So I was going around the country speaking out against Bush. And people were telling, the people I was with were telling me, especially like Medea Benjamin from Code Pink, who was one of the early advocates in the Green Party to support Kerry instead of supporting the Green Party candidate, was telling me that it was because of Nader that George Bush won. And we were in Florida. And actually, the bottom line about Nader stealing the election from Gore is that Gore actually won Florida. Mm-hmm. He won Florida by something like 529 votes before it was stopped. And so I bought into that lie. And so I wasn't raging pro-Kerry because I did not like Kerry, but I was raging against George Bush. And so thinking that it might make a difference. Even though Kerry said, and see, this is the same thing with the Obama followers. Even though Kerry said he was going to send more troops to Iraq, I still thought, well, he would be better than Bush. Right. So, most of the people in this country, they just affiliate with the party, whatever their parents affiliated with, and they don't put too much thought into it. And that's the way I was before my son was killed. And those are the people that we need to educate and reach out to. But like before, it's the people who know, but still help the people who aren't that aware come to the conclusion that you have to vote for a Democrat are the ones that are the problem. They're the ones that we're not going to change. We have the hope of changing just regular grassroots America. We're not going to change the operatives. So they're doing it because they're doing it deliberately.
And have you talked to any of these people? I mean, it seems like you've been in contact with a lot of these people, like from Move On and stuff like that. And have you asked them, why are you perpetuating this? I mean, that this isn't the solution. It can't be.
Have
you gotten any insight
early on, I really had a lot of dialogue with people like that. In fact, in August of 2005, Move On sent 2 really high up people in their organization, Tom Andrews from Win Without War and Glenn Smith. He's with Move On. I don't know what, but he's a Texan. And I knew both of them before, so they sent them. And we had a meeting in my trailer, and they wanted me to support a bill that was not supportable. And it was a Democrat-Republican co-sponsored bill about getting out of Iraq eventually. And I was just like, no, that's not what Camp Casey's about. That's not what the affiliated organizations, we called them the Skin in the Game organizations, Veterans for Peace, IVAW, Gold Star Families for Peace, and Military Families Speak Out. I said, no, we're calling for an immediate end to the occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan. And so that's when they basically just said, okay, see you later. If you won't support this awful bill, then we're not going to support you. And then when the 2000th soldier was getting ready to be be killed in Iraq. We were in Washington, D.C., calling for civil disobedience, and then MoveOn totally like severed ties and said, no, we're doing a candlelight vigil. And I said, okay, then there's going to be a 3,000th soldier, a 4,000th soldier, a 5,000th soldier. If we don't start to get a little more radical with our demonstrations, and you're the one that has the major list. And then in '07, it was the 5th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. United for Peace and Justice refused to call a demo in D.C. saying they didn't want to embarrass the Democrats.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, just boldly said, we don't want to embarrass the Democrats.
Get an effing backbone.
Yeah. So, I've had so much dialogue with these people. I just finally wrote an article, and I said that all the people from MoveOn have blood on their hands. Mm-hmm. And anybody who supports this empire, supports any part of, because that's when MoveOn was telling their groups that they need to support the Democrats and supporting the supplemental war funding.
Right.
And I was just like, you all have blood on your hands. And then it's like, oh, you said we have blood on your hands. I said, you do.
Yeah.
So you have two choices. Keep supporting the Democrats or support peace. Mm-hmm. And you're supporting the Democrats, so that means you have blood on your hands. Mm-hmm. So of course I'm the awful, horrible person for saying these people have blood on their hands and blah, 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 whatever. But, it's just, to me, it's just very simple and very clear cut. You're either for killing or against killing. Absolutely. If you're for Democrats, you're for killing.
Right, absolutely.
Simple.
It's the same thing.
It's basic.
Age-old rhetoric that we hear all the time, like, we can't pull out, it would be chaotic. It's like, well, we're just staying there and just killing people, and it's just chaos.
Right.
So we need to get the hell out of there. We need to end these wars. I mean, we're killing people on a daily basis. There's no progress at all. I mean, the Iraq government's a complete sham.
Well, it's just like the rhetoric of the empire around Egypt. If Mubarak leaves, there'll be chaos. Right. Like there's not chaos there now? Okay, And at least it'll be, by and for the people.
Exactly, yeah. It's astounding, just this whole thing with the comparison between Obama's reaction to the Iranian revolution. Like, mm-hmm. We need to, the people are going to have a revolution. And now it's just like, the Muslims might take it over, and just mm-hmm. This whole transition, because we give him $1.5 billion a year. We don't, he's a chess piece to us.
Right, exactly.
He's a puppet. And going along with just figures in the left, I'm not even saying that Jon Stewart's necessarily someone that we should be paying attention to, but it is funny. He had that whole Rally Restore Sanity, and on his show he's making this false equivalency between Code Pink people and these hysterical right-wing Tea Partiers. Mm-hmm. It's just disgusting. Mm-hmm. How dare you?
Well, it's about extremism on any side, and I had a little different take. It's like, how can you compare Code Pink to a principled left-wing organization when they actually, many of them supported Obama? And so I was a little offended that he would pick Code Pink as being an extremist organization, just because they do great stuff once in a while, and they get on the they get on TV because they're flamboyant and out there, but that whole Jon Stewart is just, to me, completely disgusting. With his we gotta go along. He's another one, and you can send this to Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, you have blood on your hands too. Because the middle is death. The middle is destruction. The middle is suffocation. And, to call people, even Code Pink, to call anybody who is advocating for an end to the death, to call them extremist is, and to lead, because these people have a following. That's what gets me, is to lead your following astray is just just unconscionable. And if you are a comedy show, be a comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't call for rallies. Don't have an editorial position. Just be a comedy show.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised that a lot of the people like Rachel Maddow, Keith, I mean, a lot of these people that seemed to be completely behind our point of view during the Bush administration, were you surprised at all, or did you kind of see it as, you know, just the system? It's obvious that they would kind of go
well, you
with
know,
the grain, or...
I think Rachel has done a lot of good stuff, and the thing is, when you become a part of NBC, you actually start cashing your paychecks from the war machine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just, you know, that's just the fact of the matter. But like I said earlier, when I first started, it was like I thought that the media was biased towards the right. It's just biased towards empire. And so, you know, if you have MSNBC and Fox as you know, theoretically the two extremes of the left wing, the right wing. But if you pay attention to them, they're mostly like criticizing each other. Mm. You know, it's like Keith Olbermann, the worst person of in the world almost every day was Bill O'Reilly. Why?
Right.
You know, why isn't it Barack Obama?
Right.
Why isn't it Eric Holder? Why isn't it George Bush or Dick? Oh, it often was. But, you know, why isn't it these people who are actually doing physical damage? I mean, not saying that Bill O'Reilly is a good person. He's not, you know, but...
by paying attention to him and Sarah Palin, it's distracting us
right.
from the real debate.
And obviously these people are just meant to do that. You know, Sarah Palin, it was actually insurance that Obama would be elected. Right. You know, there was a lot of, in the primaries... You know, there was a lot of people who, for some reason, supported Hillary. And that schism was about to tear the party apart, was one of the things. And, you know, the Hillary ladies, I forget what they called themselves. It was something really creative, though. What was it? Anyway, the people who really supported Hillary, they were actually advocating for people to vote for McCain until Palin...
Wow.
Was his. And, you know, I don't know if that would have had a big effect on the vote for Obama or not, the schism in the party between Hillary and Obama. But, you know, also when you have an open seat and you have so many people running, you know, there's always, you need something to tie everybody together behind the people who eventually gets the nomination. Sarah Palin definitely was that. I had people who were so against Obama, even when they knew McCain was the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. But when Palin was nominated, they put the brakes on. And they were like, oh, you know, anything's better than a McCain-Palin ticket.
It did seem pretty constructed.
Yeah.
It seemed very, I don't know, manufactured to me, and I agree with you. And yeah, people don't question... why do we have this empire? It seems like we just have these people up that are arguing about how to operate this empire.
Right.
But we don't ask, why do we need an empire, and why do we need to be aggressive imperialists and invade countries and occupy them? So yeah, it's the pre-propaganda that we don't question, and that's what needs to be questioned at every point that we have public debate. And we're talking about Egypt's revolution. What do you think it would take to see a revolution on Egypt's scale in this country? Do you think that it's possible?
I, of course, think that it's possible, but the hard thing is, in the United States, is that according to the recent income... it's the Gini index, that the United States has a greater income disparity than Egypt.
Wow.
And Tunisia.
Really?
And Yemen.
Wow.
But that was like really super, you know, eye-opening. But the thing is our standard of living here is so high, is that, you know, people here think that as long as they can, you know, survive, that they're middle class. And they're doing, that they can be like that someday if they just work hard and keep their nose clean. There's still those myths that are operating. So, of course, they're keeping the unemployment rate artificially low. Now I think it's at 9%, when really it's double that, because it was this month in January that I think how many people fell off of the unemployment rolls, so they're not counted anymore because they're not receiving unemployment. Even though they're still unemployed, they're not counted.
And I love the people taking moonlighting shifts of other jobs. We're not counting that these people are doubling up also, so that's contributing to it as well.
So the real unemployment rate's hovering around 22%. And, that's Great Depression unemployment rate. And then, millions of people are losing their homes. And unfortunately, I think that in Egypt, that was the breaking point for them, was the, making poverty wages and no jobs and, things like that. So the young people, it was the young people that started it and got out into the streets. So as long as we are in the United States, given the appearance of prosperity and given the appearance of democracy, things are going to have to get a lot worse, I think, before we'll be able, where the box of lies, when people start realizing that their experience and their community's experience isn't jiving with what they're saying on TV. Because for one thing, they don't want to see it, and for another thing, they don't have time to see it. So I think things are going to have to get worse here before we start to see. But who knows? You never know if there's going to be a tipping point where people are just going to, have enough and get out into the streets. Let's hope.
And where could people find out more about you and your radio show and everything that you have going on?
Well, my website is cindysheehansoapbox.com, cindysheehansoapbox.com, and my radio show's there. My link to my blog is there. And recognizing the fact that we live in a mythocracy. I wrote a book called Myth America, 20 Greatest Myths of the Robber Class and the Case for Revolution. Tonight, and you know about this too, tonight we're having a conference call with almost 200 people on it to start something called Recreating Revolutionary Communities. And that's just recognizing that there's very little we can do to change the robber class, I call them, here in the robbed class. The only thing we can do is become reverse Robin. We can become Robin Hoods. The robber class are reverse Robin. We can become Robin Hoods and start keeping our own resources, keeping our own children, money, whatever, in our own communities and our own families to strengthen our communities and families. And recognizing the fact that very few of us have Apache helicopters with, Hellfire missiles attached to them in our garage. We can't really face, even if we were violent, which we're not, we can't even defend ourselves against, the empire. Absolutely. I have a hammer, I think, somewhere. So, I think that our response has to be very positive and very healthy, and supporting each other and supporting our families and communities, and getting a good education, being healthy physically, growing our own food, selling our own food, trading our commodities instead of participating in the globalization. So this is a localization movement, combining with many localization movements around the world. A lot of people are moving in the same direction. So instead of us being starved to death, we want to starve the global ruling class to death.
Absolutely.
Yeah.